You touched on the defense to a certain extent. You lose your best player up front. You lose two prominent players in the NFL draft up front, and of course, Caden Stearns in the defensive backfield, and then a plethora of undrafted free agents that will get to camps. So the defense, your thoughts about their progression at this point?
They look great. The whole scheme. I think defense, our run game is going to be, where we make our money on offense. But I really think overall as a team is going to be a defensive team this year. Offensive scheme takes a long time to implement, especially a complicated one like Sark's. So defense is naturally ahead because they have a simplified approach in their early install. So basically get in your spot and play. And offense doesn't have that advantage. So they looked a lot better. And as far as like defensive line, we did lose Osai, but I'm not worried there. What we've replaced there with, like a Broughton and a Collins and a Keandre at nose, Ray Thornton at an X-backer position, Jacoby Jones at Jack. We need a little bit more depth on the edges, and that's why you're seeing our transfers come in like Ben Davis from Alabama and stuff like that. But once they get in, we'll be solid there. So our defensive line is really talented and more talented than it was last year, even minus Osai. And then our linebackers, we're still trying to kind of figure out there. They can bite on play action a little bit, but that's part of being young. And DeMarvion Overshone is also not in. He's hurt, and he's going to be our starting middle. And then our secondary is really talented. We have almost an embarrassment of riches there. I would feel totally comfortable with our second string corners and nickels playing in the game, just like a first string. So I really like what the defense has. It's simplified but confusing. So they're always dropping 4 under zone defenders and in a cover 3, right? So 3 up high, 4 under, but you never know which one of the players is going to be the 4 under. So sometimes they'll drop the X backer out to do that. Sometimes it'll be the will linebacker, but you're never going to have the same thing. And that simplicity is also what makes it really hard. And so you were seeing quarterbacks read. They couldn't get it, getting coverage sacks, getting nervous and running. And that's all due to the under coverage being confusing and constantly making young quarterbacks have to work. So I'm excited about defense.
You mentioned Overshone having to sit out. Was it just the spring game or the entire spring session?
Yeah, he's going to have to sit out for a while. He injured his shoulder. I think it was still from last season, but they discovered it. And so he had to go through surgery or will have to go through surgery. So he's going to be out for a little while. He's going to miss all the spring install.
So a ton of guys missed the spring game, as is pretty usual, just for precautionary considerations. But any other issues for anybody else that's an impact player headed toward August?
Jake Smith was out at inside receiver, broke his foot on the first day of spring. So, didn't really get much options there. And I think, too, that's probably why you hear receivers hurting a little bit. So Jake will come back as well. But as far as our big people out, Jake Smith at slot receiver, DeMarvion Overshone at middle linebacker.
All right, got Texas Homer here talking Longhorns who have wrapped up the spring season and head toward August. And if they've got some leadership in the locker room, of course, these guys can certainly get better between now and August. So working on their own and in individual groups.